It's time for Tonia's Kitchen, taking you around the world of food and wine. Here is Tonia King.
My guest today is Michelle Braxton, and we're talking about her brand new book, Supper with Love. Thanks for joining me, Michelle.
And thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank
Wow,
you.
what a beautiful book.
Thank you.
Beautiful
Thank
book.
you.
So tell me a little bit about yourself and why you did the book.
I have a blog. It's called Supper with Michelle. I started the blog 10 years ago. It was more so of a creative outlet. I was sharing images of pictures of food that I would take. And I just shared them like on social media or Facebook or Instagram years ago. And friends and family started saying, okay, so we see the food, but where's the recipe? So after a lot of encouragement from friends and family, then I started my blog back then. And my dietary lifestyle, I eat mainly vegetarian and sometimes seafood. So that journey started back in 2019. And that was something that I gradually gravitated to. And in 2007, I was a vegetarian and then slowly went back to being a pescatarian, which is my lifestyle now. So fast forward to 10 years now, here we are with Supper with Love. And so Supper with Love is really about my journey, with food and love and life and also a little bit, dealing with grief from the loss of my mom back in 2019. So
You
here
know,
we are.
10 years ago, people really weren't blogging as much as they are now. So, I mean, you
Right.
were you were pretty hip back then.
Right. And blogging was something totally new to me. I knew nothing about blogging. And quite frankly, even back then, I didn't even know how to write a recipe. So even that was something that was new, to me that I had to learn, how to even write a recipe. So, to see now, blogs, there's so many, there's millions of
Right,
blogs now.
right,
Everybody
right.
has a blog. So, to try to differentiate yourself, stand out from, the millions of blogs that are out there now, it's quite a challenge at
So,
times.
there are a lot of interesting recipes in this book. And
Mhm.
are these recipes that you've been working on for years, like some of your favorites, or have you come up with a lot of new ones for the book?
So there's a couple of blog favorites in the cookbook, but yeah, there definitely are recipes that some were inspired by recipes from my mom. There's an alphabet vegetable soup in my cookbook, which was inspired by my mom, and there's a lot of dishes that I make all the time that are staples in our household that I just wanted to share. They're just so good that I wanted to share. And then there's a lot of recipes that are inspired by restaurants that I go to locally, particularly during the pandemic when everyone was locked in the house and couldn't go anywhere. A lot of those recipes were inspired by restaurants that I could not go to at the time. And I was like, okay, I've got to find a way to still fix that craving that I'm having. So I'm in the kitchen just kind of experimenting and trying to get it just right. I'll say, okay, now how can I get this recipe just right so that it tastes like some of my favorite restaurants out. So, but that's a lot of the inspiration came from those as well. So
I think the title definitely fits Supper with Love. You show a lot of love for food and variety in the book. I want to share some of these recipes. Can you think of a couple that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Oh, sure. So there's one that was created, my smoky salmon chowder. That one was inspired by Peach's place out in Seattle. They had some really great salmon chowder, which I love. You can either use smoked salmon, already smoked salmon, or I bake the salmon with some really nice seasonings, smoked paprika, so it gets really that nice smoky flavor. And it has, corn and potatoes, a cream base. It also has capers in there. It gives a little tang
Yeah.
to it. But it's creamy and delicious, which I love. But
So it's a
I mean,
cream base.
it is a cream base. It's a delicious base. And it's a hearty chowder. It is in my chowders, about that chowder life in my cookbook. And I mean, the book is full of, I mean, I have salads, I have 26 soups. I love soup. Soup is, I've been kind of coined as the soup queen. So I have a soup for every other week. I absolutely love soup. So if you love soup, you won't be missing any in this book. But I also have a section that's called Handy Things, where, there's things like sandwiches and wraps and pizza. I have a chapter it's called What's for Brenner. And there it's similar to like what's for breakfast for dinner.
Right.
And so
So share a recipe from that section.
so that one, I would say the smoked trout and asparagus frittata, that one is very good. And
Is
I
that
love
easy to make?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think all the recipes in the cookbook, I try to write it for all levels of cooks. And, whether you are a beginner or, you're a chef, I think all of the recipes in the cookbook are approachable. And so that would pair really good with the Parmesan arugula and pear salad that I have in my salad chapter. So that is a nice combination, great for brunch if you were having something kind of nice. So the frittata is just, it's just a mixture of eggs and milk or cream, and then you're adding in the smoked trouts and some sautéed asparagus. Bake it till it's nice and golden on top and delicious, and lots of fresh dill. And
Some people have a hard time with frittatas, though. They either don't puff up. What makes a frittata to you?
Well, I mean, because there's different approaches for those. I mean, some people prefer to do it halfway on the stove and then maybe flip it and put it, do it that way. But I prefer to bake mine, which is kind of similar to a crustless quiche.
Yeah.
So I feel like you don't feel like you're gonna err in that frittata. You just, I mean, it's simple. It's not, you don't have that pressure of trying to get it just right. If you follow the recipe, you will get it just right.
That's good. Some people are intimidated with things like that.
No.
If you tried to make a souffle and it didn't
Mm-hmm.
puff up,
Mm-hmm.
there's that defeating feeling.
Right. I mean, it does puff up, but then, even in the instructions, I say, well, it's going to puff up, but then it's going to deflate, slightly. So, I don't want you to, have that disappointment. It's like, oh, it went down. No, no. You know exactly what to expect when you make the
Great.
recipe. So,
That's great.
yeah.
I'll tell you another recipe that I just noticed in your book that looks delicious. The
Okay.
cabbage and lentil soup.
Oh,
Tell me,
yes.
yeah, it's perfect for this time of year. So tell me how you make that.
Right. I mean, that one, you saute the vegetables and then you cook it and just until everything is nice and tender and then those lentils are tender. That one was inspired by like a traditional cabbage roll soup minus the meat.
Hmm.
And so, I added the lentils to kind of give you that filler so that you didn't feel like you were missing the meat. So that's really what inspired that recipe. But another easy, simple, recipe to make. You just low and slow and let that boy simmer until it's nice and tender.
And nice and nutritious. Lentils are just so
Yeah.
good for you.
Yeah. I mean, the cookbook is full. I mean, if you're looking for nutritious recipes, the cookbook is full of that. And so the recipes, one thing about Supper with Love, there is so much flexibility and versatility with the recipes. I wrote it that way. So I have something called Freestyle It, where the readers can really kind of get into their groove with these recipes and make the recipes their own. So each recipe is basically a really good base or a jump off to start. And then, you can switch out the ingredients based on the season or what you have in the cupboard or pantry or fridge, freezer. So, I wanted readers to really have the flexibility to be able to, make these recipes their own. And then I also provide something called Veganize It, where, a lot of my readers are vegan or, live more of a plant forward lifestyle. And so I also provide ways to veganize my recipes. So, even if you were even considering more of a plant forward lifestyle, this kind of eases you into, that a meatless Monday or a weekday vegetarian
Right.
kind of thing.
Right.
So I wanted this book to be as inclusive as possible and as accessible as possible. All the ingredients for the most part that, you can get these at your local grocery store or farmer's market. I wanted this book to be something for everybody.
Well, it's just beautiful. If you're just joining us, my guest today is Michelle Braxton, the author of the brand new book, Supper with Love. And the cool thing is you just mentioned how you can veganize it. And on every page, you have either Michelle's tip, freestyle it, veganize it. You do really allow people to embellish as they need to.
Yep.
Very cool.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And the pictures are great.
Well, thank you. Yeah, Aaron Scott did the photography of my cookbook, and we talked, and I just wanted these to feel very in line with my own photography, that people would expect. And she did an amazing job, in capturing the soul and the heart and the feel, of how I wanted these recipes to come across to readers, and she did an amazing job. So thank you.
Tell me how we can find you on social media.
Social media, I'm Supper with Michelle basically everywhere. So, Instagram, Facebook, Threads now. The same thing with my blog at Supper with Michelle.
Is this your first book?
This is my first book, baby. Yes.
Yeah.
And this is my debut cookbook.
It is a beautiful book. We're talking with Michelle Braxton about her new book, Supper with Love. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your day today, Michelle.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope you'll subscribe to this podcast as we continue to take you around the world of food and wine on Tonia's Kitchen.